You can't eat it, you can't shoot it, it's not going to plug a bullet wound, you can't store it. Enjoy sex.
Hold it over your head.
Might get something out of it too, Larry.
Actually,
Basically, anybody knows what we're doing a Comm presentation. Any ideas why comms would be important for preps? It's not something that's usually covered in beads, bolts, and band-aids.
To talk to other people, find out what's going on.
Communications, right? They can get you those things you need to your aid if you need it. You're stuck somewhere or trapped somewhere. A lot of people plan on not bugging out, they plan on staying in. So if you're stuck at home, you can get help to there or help somebody else and get those communications. As far as communications, it's such a broad area to cover as far as ham. You got GMRS, FRMS frequencies. I mean, basic form of communication is line of sight, your eyes, you receive, your hands are the transmit. Same thing with radios. You have transceivers and receivers. It's radios you can talk on and radios you can listen on. If you're coming down the basic form of communication, you want to keep it cheap, keep it easy. The best part of the communications is knowledge. The information is power, keeps you going. You can hear what's going on around the world or locally. If you're only going to have one form of communication or a couple, I'd recommend a shortwave radio, which gives you international frequencies from around the world, different places on the country, down to scanners, which would be local police, fire department, law enforcement, stuff like that. And then from there you can just go. You start basically, I broke it down in my mind from budget down to the little FRS channel radios, the one you can buy at Walmart, the little cheapies you give to the kids to play Wally World and play around the yard with. Be a good start. Get the kids and the grandparents and uncles and aunts a couple of those. And then from there, I would move up to the mouth fan radios we've been talking about. Some the 2 meter 440, they cover a lot of frequencies. These radios, for the price you're getting into, it covers a lot of ranges as far as it covers ham meters, it covers GMRS, it covers MERS, so I've been talking to about a few people. It covers marine frequencies. You can get into weather channel frequencies. What else was it? You can use them if you have the frequencies in your area. If the law enforcement is still operating in some of the lower bands, you can use it as a scanner. You can set it up to scan through certain frequencies. A lot of the newer police and fire department, they're up in 800 megahertz. This was where you get into a scanner. So you can't get those on the FR or the bow things, but you get into a scanner. These cover a lot more frequencies, but you can only listen on them. It's a receiver, it's not a transceiver. You can't transmit, but you can hear. So being able to hear is very important. And then from there, basically, like I said, working from budget, the FRSs are cheap. You can get them at Walmart. A lot of people have them around already. You can go to a CB radio. Basic radio, 40 channel, 1 through 40 is your basic, they call it 11 meter or CB band. Simple AM communications. And then from there, you can get into sideband, which I recommend. When you get into, this is where it starts getting tricky. You have the same 1 through 40 channels, but they split those channels into upper and lower sidebands. And you can transmit further with less power. And then on the sideband radios, you can usually add or have channels added to it. They can do modifications to the radio, where it gets you into more frequencies, which gets you away from the mess of 40 channel. You're not listening to the truckers talk trash and cuss each other and whatnot. Basically, that's as far as the form, levels of communication. You can go into ham radios. That's a whole other field of itself. You can get into 2 meter, 440. You get into big money, big antennas, big radios, lots of cash. But you get more features for what you're paying for. You get a lot more ranges and frequencies and abilities to transmit. For prepping purposes, I'm thinking the FRS, a basic CB radio, scanner, shortwave radio, good for international communications to hear what's going on around the world. And then the scanners get you your local information. From there, they have different versions of each one of these. You have handheld units, like this is a handheld CB radio. This is a mobile CB radio. It works 12 volts off your car. You can run through power supplies for base stations. And then from there, you have base stations which run off of 110. They plug into the wall and stuff like that. CB, I don't really like the handheld CBs. They suck a lot of power. They use up battery power quick. That's why they get into both things a little better. Plus, they're such noisy. If you're in the woods talking a couple miles from nobody or something like that, for what you're going to pay for one of these, the FRS are going to work a lot better than both things, 2 meter 440, stuff like that. It's international. The frequencies that this is receiving or they're transmitting on, being this is a receiver only. The bandwidth, I guess you could say, is the size of the visible field the wave travels through. The best way to explain this is getting propagation of these. Getting long distance communication, you can hear what's going on from China, Russia, Germany, Britain, different countries around the world because the band that it transmits on receives, it travels so much further through the atmosphere. To be honest. With the scanners, see, what's nice about the scanners, you're hearing firsthand what's going on in the field. You're hearing the police talk from car to car,
But
to
most of
dispatch.
it never hit a newspaper or.
Right, that's information that gets before you, yeah. It's unfiltered, so to speak.
Yeah, pre-filtered.
Pre-filled.
Right, rainy.
Yeah, it's what's going on and at the scene on the spot. That's where the scanners come in. It's nice to hear what's going on between, like I said, the EMTs and the fire department and the local police and stuff. So that's your closest form of communication of real information, you know. Usually they use a lingo, they got different codes, just like CBers use the 10 codes and stuff. Police use different codes, series of codes that do the same thing. But if you can pick up on the code and understand what they're saying, you can learn quite a bit from it. So, any other questions, any ideas, or any?
What about the realistic ranges on, starting with the chief FRS radios?
Basically, any handheld unit is going to be line of sight. So if you can see somebody, they radio 26 miles, yeah, 30 miles. You can do that if you're standing on top of a mountain and the other guy's standing on top of a mountain, and you have fully charged batteries in the correct condition. You're not, it's not cloudy and whatnot. You can hit that kind of 30 miles. But any handheld radio, be it FRS, GMRS, or ham radio, are basically line of sight. Unless you get into a $1,200 handheld ham radio, it'll penetrate. It'll go through trees. Right, stuff that it's way incomprehensible as far as budget-wise. Yep. And then there's a way, actually there's another group I'm with, they actually have one of these that's broke down, I think it was into 3 pieces here. They ran a piece of shot cord through so you can actually take the thing apart, throw it in your backpack, and pull a wire. So if you get out in the woods and you're wherever in the woods, put a little eyelet on there and throw a piece of bank line over a tree and pull this thing up into the tree 30 feet in the air. Now your handhelds are going to talk a lot better than standing with the road. I got a base station upstairs. It's a sideband radio, or it's a shortwave radio, and that thing it's a base station, but it's it's a huge unit. They're $200-something, but it covers a lot more frequencies, gives you more ways to tune it, different options. It does radios. You can hook different antennas up to it for each shortwave band that you're talking on or receiving on. You can actually run dipole antennas to get more out of them, so they're going to transmit better and get a little more to get stronger signals as well. And when you're getting into antennas and propagation and radios, there's 1,000 ways to do 1,000 different kinds of antennas. And then for each wave or band that you're transmitting in, or meter they call them, there's just it snowballs with such a big effect. As far as the prepper aspect, I'm trying to keep it simple for most people. The FRSs, CB radios, scanners are good for local. The short waves are good for international communications. So you hear a little more around what's going around the world. And the more information, the better in any situation. The more you know what's going on around you, the better off you're going to be. If the woods are on fire behind you, hey, you hear it on the radio, you head east, don't go west. So it's like you have AM, FM radio. That's AM amplified modulation, and what's your FM frequency modulation? I think. You get UHF, you have VHF, you have SW frequencies. You get into what are some of the other ones that are sideband, yeah, AM. You have upper and lower sideband. There's what? Tons of digital, right? Your computer is a ham radio. If you think about the way your cell phone is a ham radio. The same thing goes with radios, the CBs, the FRSs, I believe they're FM, GMRS radio, yeah, the FM, and the CBs are AM or sideband, which basically the sideband, it's kind of funny how to explain it. It doesn't really split AM, there's like an upper side and a lower side. It's like being on a highway. You have a center lane and then a side lane on each side is a way to look at it.
Yeah, like one's a little higher, a little north of it, one's a little south.
South, right. And it gets you away from the main noise of the service.
It takes the wattage that you're pushing down the main road and compresses it into a smaller area just to the side.
Well, how I look at it when I think radio waves, how they traffic through different bands and frequencies, because we're talking about bands and meters. I look at it as like a big culvert, those big concrete culverts. Take a tennis ball and bounce it down that culvert. It's going to go boing, 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 boing. Now you take that same tennis ball and throw it into an 8-inch pipe, it's going to go boing, 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 boing. It's going to travel faster with the same amount of energy to get it through that pipe. That's how the bands work with radio waves as well. As they travel through, it's got to travel further to go from point A to point B. Through that bandwidth, you shrink that bandwidth, it's going to travel a lot faster and further. So it gives you more distance. That's where it's good to have pre-designated frequencies to meet on certain situations. And then, yeah, basically any form of communication, if you're transmitting a signal that's not in a hardwire, it can be received in some way or another. You can pick up on it. There's ways, things like the GMRs, let's say they have secret channels, and they're not really secret channels, they're kind of like a sideband almost for GMRS. But if someone goes through long enough in that radio and you're talking, they can find you on that frequency. And if you're transmitting it, they will hear you. The only way to get around that is to have a language that only the people in the group understand that. It gets you thinking, what was that one they did? They used a book. Everybody went out and bought like a particular book. Like you go out and buy
Something like that, yeah.
Catcher in the Rye. Right.
Are good, but everybody knows.
I think.
Right.
Understand, like, a little
Well, it just gives you an idea of how to use codes without saying
I'm just-
what the location,
saying.
what the point. Right, gotcha.
Or-
Yeah, like what they're gonna say, like, everybody in the group goes out and buys Catcher in the Rye.
That's what, 35, 40 bucks for the sign?
$40, yep. And I had to try through the adapter in there too. It eliminates this little cord, it screws in so you can go to the SO239.
Every one of you needs
I got
to.
from the group too, he's been with Summer Racing for, geez, maybe 30 years. They got to know Summer Racing, apparently Ham Radio is just real passionate.
Runs DX Enterprise.
Yeah, well, according to Tim, if we get him interested, him and his guys should come in here and teach. So,
Awesome.
we'll see how that goes. I don't know why Tim didn't make it, I thought he was coming. It's possible, nothing's written in stone, but we'll see how it goes. If we can get somebody,
Potential possibility of a maybe.
and if we get the owner, if we get
Solid, definitely.
Good solid.
It's clear as mud.
We can do, I'm a member of, has built a white paper or
A what?
white paper, basically a layout for
Op security,
operations plan. Um,
which we need.
GMRS and ham radio, we can look at it, very often, there's, we don't care, as long as they don't know who we are, where we are, we don't care that they see, the frequencies and stuff, it's something we could use to build our own, to model it.
Well, that's what I seen, there was on the, I can't remember what it's called.
Plus, with a white paper, we know who we are talking to.
Prepper, I don't know if everybody
Or at
sees
least that we're
it's
supposed to be.
In Northeast Ohio, and a lot of the other prepper groups, the shit hits fan frequencies. It covers CB, hams, GMRS, MERS, marine, aircraft. They're like the popular frequencies for those. It wasn't in that paper I handed out, I'm sorry, this is not one. Shit hits, SHTF, survival frequency radios, hams. I'll post it up on the OP. Oh, John Michaels?
What's
John, it says the beard.
what's
The beard.
What's the number?
Yeah, what's the number?
I don't know that I,
284066. I got it.
oh.
I wrote it down.
Yeah, John, it's Jason.
want to take a
Jason, 284066.
Sweet.
All right.
You're wrong, Peter.
Awesome. I feel like I just won a major award.
It keeps on giving.
In case it's not clear, none of this, nobody's keeping anything. Red
It's all
radio, so
This all
all this is
goes
gonna go
towards
towards,
next prize.
next month will be a cooler prize, and two smaller, and we get the grant.
I did my best, thank you. Brad didn't hit us.
Yeah, I know.
I'll get on the radio and act like I'm doing both right.
Let's see, anybody can take it all back. Okay, let's go.
Enjoy your sex.
Come on, look here.